Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. My name is John Mark Tolley. We're coming to you from, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. Joining me today, he is the Chewbacca to my Han Solo, the Finn to my Poe Dameron, the, dare I say, the L3 to my Lando Calrissian.
You had to go there.
I did. Yes, I did. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Christopher Stalling.
Hey,
Chris, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? We're back.
Yay! All right. Well, yes, we are back. Back. No special guest today, unfortunately. Chris has already kind of touched about some of the stuff going on a couple weeks ago, so we won't go into that. But we are back, and before we get any started, some possible big news going on to
real quick, just to let you know, on Twitch.tv, AgroDad Gaming is checking in and says, "What's up, AgroDad?" He has been a hell. I don't know if you know, he's been a hell of a supporter on Twitch. He also oh my god, I forget what I'm brain farting what it's called, but our show is showing on his channel as well when he's not on his channel. So
awesome, awesome. Thanks, AgroDad.
And Dr.
Awesome
Malice also saying what's up to us as well. So already starting out. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Awesome, that is awesome. Pending real life situation, starting definitely next year, hopefully, and we might get a few more episodes in this year, but definitely next year. War of the Stars will be going weekly, hopefully, and we will also be on iTunes starting next year. So that's right. Subscribe to us on iTunes starting next year. Give us those 5-star reviews, and let's see where we can go with this thing, huh?
Right on.
Yeah, definitely. There was a little bit of news today in the Star Wars, or not today, but a few weeks ago.
There is news today, too. I thought of bringing it up after you had your conversation.
All right. Hey, anything to talk about Star Wars, right?
Yeah, that's it.
The two announcements that I was talking about are, of course, the announcement of the name, or at least the subject matter, of the Jon Favreau live-action series is going to be The Mandalorian. So, Chris, thoughts?
I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, Jon Favreau is an excellent director. I've never had an issue with Mr. Jon Favreau, and I know he's an avid Star Wars fan. I just personally have never understood the fascination with the Mandalorians. And because of which, I don't know if this is going to be like the wannabe Boba Fett show, or if it's going to deal with more of the actual Mandalorian. And I don't mean Boba Fett in the sense of like Boba Fett himself, but I mean like, is this just going to be a Mandalorian bounty hunter, or is this going to be an actual person from Mandalore who is doing for Mandalore, or like I don't know enough about it to have any type of information beyond the fact that it's a guy wearing this suit that everybody falls in love with, or girl, because we don't even know if it's a guy or girl, at least at this point.
Yeah. Well, and I think, with this point, everything is just speculation, so we don't even know what time period in Star Wars this is going to be set in. Is this pre-Empire, post-Empire?
Actually, they did say it's going to be directly after Return of the Jedi.
Okay, so that answered my other question, and my other hope was that maybe we would get a movie that dealt with the Mandalorian War, the Old Republic War between the Jedi and the Mandalorians, or the Republic and the Mandalorians. But it looks like that's not the case. I was kind of hoping that would be, but so.
Well, I do have a question. I do have a question for you now that you know the time frame. I know very basic stuff about it is that it is taking place right after the Return of the Jedi time. So you're looking at Mandalore post Darth Maul, and I don't know if it's post or pre, or not pre, but currently still Ahsoka world where she's involved with Mandalore. So the question is, if it does involve the time frame of when Ahsoka was involved with Mandalore, do you think we'll get a live action Ahsoka in this show?
I mean, that's always possible, but because it was right after Jedi, though, that if you remember the end of Rebels, which ended right after Endor, right after Return of the Jedi, her and Sabine went out after what's his name at the end of it, Thrawn and Ezra.
Right.
So if that takes place right around that time period, then she would be out searching for Ezra and Thrawn in the unknown regions.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's possible we might see her, but I think if we do, it might be in flashback scenes.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? I doubt it. That's just my own personal opinion. But yeah.
Do you also think that they'll address the fact that Boba Fett is a false Mandalorian? Like, I don't know what Jango Fett was, but Boba obviously was a clone.
Yeah.
So will they address the fact that he kind of brought shame upon the Mandalorian species, the Mandalorian race, Mandalore in general?
I don't know. Again, I mean, and I don't know how I'd feel about that. I'd almost prefer if the Mandalorians just treated Boba Fett as a non-entity. Like, meh, he was there. He tried to be something he wasn't, and he paid the price for it.
Right.
Or that they just kind of like brush. Like, I would be fine if they didn't even mention Boba Fett. I know they probably will, but honestly, I'd be perfectly fine if the show didn't even bring up Boba Fett.
That would be fine by me too, but I'm just curious. And of course, the final thing that I'm curious about, if we're going to be going to Mandalorian, and I'm assuming at some point, because it's a Mandalorian, we're going to wind up somewhere on Mandalore at some point. Yeah. Are we going to see a live action shot of the Blacksaber?
Ooh.
Whether in use or even just sitting like on display in a throne room or something, you know?
Mm. That would be, yeah. That I would love to see that. Honestly, that would be very, very cool to see that. I don't know. I mean, it would make sense for them to, just because it's so much a part of, you know, with the new canon, the Mandalorian mythos and the legend and everything like that, and with the also news that, what's his name is involved in it.
Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni. It would make sense that they would bring in the Darksaber.
Well, that's why I was wondering about the Darksaber. That's also why I thought we would possibly get a live Sabine or Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's possible to get both of those. But like I said, I would. Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm. Gather your thoughts.
Yeah, sorry. With those two, I think we would be more likely to see flashbacks again of.
Well, if we're going to see flashbacks, do you think we'll see flashbacks of the time when Maul was in control of Mandalore?
That's another good question. That's another possibility.
Or do you think this might be too much for people like the fair-weather Star Wars fans that maybe didn't follow the cartoons? Kind of the same way as a lot of people were thrown off by Maul appearing in Solo because of the fact that they don't follow the cartoons and everything else, where it was already known that Maul survived Episode 1. But to everybody else, it was like he was cut in half and dead, and now all of a sudden he just shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Do you think that would confuse people?
If they told the story right, no. And then again, with the TV show, is this going to be one that
I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. The casual fan, not fair weather. I'm sorry. That was a poor choice of words. Agar Dad's yelling at me right now. Hey, not all fans who didn't see the cartoons are fair weather. Fair enough. I meant casual fan base.
Yeah. I don't know, because again, I mean, is this going to be a show that the casual fan is going to watch, or is this going to be like let's be honest, like the cartoons were for those who weren't necessarily kids, that only the hardcore fans are really going to be into. So that's going to be interesting. But I think with anything, if you tell the story right, and especially with a TV show where you have the time to explain things over a longer period of time, I think you can explain the history of Mandalore and with different people that were involved with Duchess Satine and her sister and everything like that. I think you can explain it in a way that even a casual fan would be able to understand. But which actually leads me to another question. Do you think that this is going to get a fair shake?
Well, that's a hard thing to say. I know a lot of people are still kind of butthurt over The Last Jedi, and that severely hurt Solo.
I agree. I agree.
Because I finally, I got my Blu-ray and everything else, and I really sat down and picked apart Solo, actually, including last night. And I've come to the conclusion that although I'm still not a huge fan of the movie, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as I originally thought.
Yeah.
Yes, some of the things that irked me about the movie still irk me about the movie, and yes, I still feel that it's the movie that shouldn't have existed. Right. But did it deserve the hate and the way it was ignored the way it was? No, absolutely not. It was a fun little summer movie, really, is what it was.
Yeah, it was.
And it suffered dramatically because of the fact it was a movie that nobody wanted. And it was coming off the heels of so much controversy behind The Last Jedi that I hope that doesn't carry over. Like that somebody like Jon Favreau would draw enough attention, and Dave Filoni would draw enough attention to the show that it wouldn't hurt it. But I do worry about it because of the way people are.
Yeah, that was my worry, is that that there would be a loud enough minority that would not only not give it a chance, but would actively go out on social media and try everything they could to bash the show before it even came out. The Disney haters, I guess you could call them, that they would make such a vocal noise out there that Disney would say, well, I guess no one likes the show, so we'll have to cancel it because it looks like no one's liking it. But I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping that they realize that those people that do that are, for the most part, in the minority, and that the fans give it a shot. I mean, I think that's all we can do, is give it a shot. If you give it a shot and it turns out to be crap, fine. But give it a shot. That goes with anything, any show like that. Just give it a shot. See what happens. It could be the greatest TV series that's ever been put out on a streaming service. Who knows? And then again, it could turn out to be utter trash.
Well, I'm confident enough in Jon Favreau that even though it may be a subject matter that I personally wouldn't have chosen.
Yeah.
But who am I? I'm not a director or writer for Star Wars. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But
and since we're talking about that, and I think I hit on this before, I personally would have preferred if you're going to do Mandalore and the Mandalorians, then do the early Mandalorian. Do the Mandalorian War. Do the history of the Darksaber and how that came into be, and how they went from being in this warlike. You could even do something where you go from how they went from being that warlike culture and society to where they were in the Clone Wars, where they had embraced pacifism. I think that would be a very interesting series to go into that whole storyline of how they went from basically being to use a race from another sci-fi genre, how they went from the Klingons to the Vulcans.
Well, the thing is like it remind me if I'm wrong here, but didn't the Mandalorian War take place around the time of the Old Republic?
Yes.
That's why you're not going to see that on the TV show. I still adamantly believe that the Old Republic is being held off for Benioff and Weiss. I fully adamantly believe that you don't hire the guys from Game of Thrones and not give them something as epic as the Old Republic.
That's true. That is true.
So I think you're still going to see that, but you're going to see that in a series of live-action movies coming from them. My opinion. I have nothing to back that on except for my own belief.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's all you got. So, I understand you. Okay, so you said you had some Star Wars news coming out. So
I haven't been able to delve into this as well as I would like to present it, but since we were doing this tonight, I don't want to not talk about it. This was reported by both John Campia's podcast as well as Collider Jedi Council and Collider Movie Talk, that there is a rumor going around that Mr. Sheev Palpatine himself will be making an appearance in Episode 9.
Ooh.
Thoughts on that? Flashback, Force Ghost, Resurrection? Maybe Sheev was Snoke? Or Snoke was a clone of Mr. Palpatine? Who knows?
I mean, to see the great Sir Ian McDermott back on screen is always awesome. But, and he is a Sir, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I didn't want to give him a title. I mean, obviously, to Star Wars fans, he is Sir Ian McDermott.
Well, he's a gentleman anyway, so he deserves the title.
Yes, he does. Yes. Yes.
Even if it's not a knighthood, he still deserves a Sir. He's a good gentleman.
He still does. Yes. I mean, with anything, if you can make it work and make it make sense, then I'm all for it. I mean, that's the key. If you can have Palpatine in the movie in a way that makes sense and doesn't feel shoehorned in, because I don't want it to necessarily be in the movie just to be in the movie. And I feel that same way with anybody, like the rumors of Anakin being in Episode 9. If it makes sense for him to be in there, then by all means, I would love to see him back in there. And I say the same thing with this. Just don't have him in there just for the sake of fan service.
I don't know if it'll be fan service. I definitely think it'll be. I definitely think this is something JJ may have had in the back of his mind with the backstory of Snoke. Is maybe Snoke was an agent of Palpatine or a protector of Palpatine. Or maybe Snoke was a puppet and Palpatine was always there along. It may not be Sheev Palpatine that appears in Episode 9. It may be a clone of Sheev. We've had that alluded to in the extended universe. We've had that alluded to even in current canon, that he had contingency plans if he ever lost power. Maybe one of those contingency plans is the fact that he had a clone. Or we may just have Mr. Ian McDermott appear like he did in Battlefront 2, where the Emperor was in a droid, like a hologram recording of him was in a droid, and maybe Rey and company discover one of the Emperor's old I forget what they're called, but the droid that contained the hollow recordings of the Emperor.
Yeah,
And his final orders.
I saw a funny comic today. It showed it was supposed to be a scene from Episode 9, and it showed Kylo talking and saying, we've succeeded as you said we would. You're all this stuff, and he turns and he says, "My Emperor," and you turn and it's BB-8 sitting there as the Emperor of the First Order. The whole time it was BB-8 that was behind everything.
But as far as what you were saying about like whether it makes sense if Anakin was involved or if Sheev was involved or something of that nature, I think Anakin would make more sense than Sheev. For two reasons. One, Anakin is redeemed. So he, as we currently know in canon, that good guy Force users are able to learn a way of projecting themselves to the living through the Force. Force Ghost.
Yeah.
Plus, I could see Anakin and Luke both screwing with Kylo, because at the end of Last Jedi, we had Luke promise Kylo that he'll always be with him. And I literally take that as I'm going to haunt your dumbass. It is literally how I take it. You know what I mean? And I could see Anakin maybe screwing with him the exact same way. Like, maybe we won't get that split Force Ghost, but who's to say that a Force Ghost couldn't change their appearance? I could almost see like Kylo in a sense of like going desperately insane or something like that, and all of a sudden here comes walking a black cloaked, heavy breathing figure, and Kylo automatically drops to his knees like, oh my god, Lord Vader, and then it finally changes around from Vader to Anakin. You know what I mean? Just like screwing with him.
Yeah.
Taking him off his game a little bit. I could see something like that. And it would make more sense to me than a flashback, if you will, or Force Ghost of the Emperor.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of see that. I mean, as cool as it would be to see Ian McDermott back again, that, like you said, what you said would make more sense to have if you're going to have someone from that time period or era come back. It would make much more sense for it to be Anakin. So,
yeah, again, that's just a personal thought, but yeah.
And I mean, we'll have to wait till we have just over a year now to wait.
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder.
Which is, yeah. You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
After just picking up the Solo Blu-ray, it's a reminder that I still have over a year to go before the next Star Wars movie.
Oh.
But
it seems like it's so long, but at the same time we know it'll be here before we know it.
Well, because we haven't been around for a while, let me ask you a couple questions that we never got a chance to discuss.
Okay.
Because of the shutdown of Realm of the Mist for a little bit. I just realized that the War of the Stars background that we have up says Mist of the Realm proudly presents. I never noticed that in all the times we perform. All right. I'm not the one that created the original placard, so I didn't know about that. I'm sorry, guys. But I'm going to have to repair that. But what was I saying? Oh, the
Squirrel,
yeah. Shiny things. But well, let's talk the elephant in the room. Star Wars suffered a couple weeks ago a very, very, very bad major blow with the loss of the original producer of the original Star Wars trilogy, Mr. Gary Kurtz. He passed away a couple weeks ago. How did you feel about that? Because to me personally, like, if George Lucas is God, then Gary Kurtz would be the baby Jesus fetus of the Star Wars galaxy. You know what I mean? Star Wars would not exist not only without Lucas's imagination, but Gary being the guy behind the wheel, driving the production and getting everything together, getting the money together, getting it out to things like Fox, to even take care of the film. Without Gary, the film would never have seen the light of day. So,
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely it was I mean, it was a huge loss for the movie and for the movie industry as a whole, and for Star Wars. I mean, you just hit it right on the nail there. I mean, if it wasn't for him, then I mean, we wouldn't have Star Wars. And I mean, maybe to put it a different way, um, you can say that if you know if Lucas was the master, then he was the Jedi. He was the apprentice.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the knight. One was the master, one was the knight. Um, so yeah, I mean it's a big blow, and yeah. I mean I don't know what to. I mean I honestly don't know, because it's weird when it's a producer, when it's someone like this who's behind the camera, and like that's not, because I mean, let's be honest, Lucas was always the face.
Right. Well, with his vision.
Yeah, it was his vision, and Kurtz was always, how do you pronounce his name? Sorry, Kurtz was
Gary
always
Kurtz,
behind. Yeah, he was always behind the scenes, and kind of, doing his own, doing that thing like that. So I think.
Well, the biggest thing about Gary you got to remember is he's kind of the guy that discovered George Lucas.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, at the time, George Lucas had only come out with THX 1138 4EB, and it was a major flop. You know, the movie sunk Francis Ford Coppola's fledgling company, American Zoetrope. It really wasn't that bad of a film, just people didn't get it. And Gary met George being the producer for American Graffiti. That's where their collaborations first started. Mm-hmm. And obviously that was George's first success in filmmaking. But, Gary was the biggest cheerleader for Lucas's vision for Star Wars, where a lot of people, when A New Hope was being created, a lot of people did not believe in the film. They thought it was just a silly kids movie. It was going to flop. It was going to bomb. It was going to do like every other sci-fi movie at that time, stuff of that nature. And Gary was the biggest cheerleader, like, no, this is going to be great, I promise. Yeah. And he believed in it so much that during the end of like A New Hope, Gary was taking on second director roles and stuff like that, doing B shots and coverage shots and everything else to help finish the film. So, I mean, he was really devoted to the Star Wars, getting the Star Wars franchise started and going.
Wow.
So that's why I say if Lucas is the maker, as we all know him to be, then Gary was definitely instrumental of being like one of the engineers.
Oh yeah. I'd say that. I think you put that right on the head. If George was the designer, the person who came up with the idea, then Gary was the man who actually made it physically happen.
Exactly.
George was the idea guy. Gary was the, okay, you have the idea. Here's what we need to do to make it happen. And I think, especially in the world of entertainment and ideas, where ideas are so, bandied around, you almost need that a lot of times,
Right.
Someone to be there to physically say, okay, here's your idea. And I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's what I needed. Whenever I wanted to get this started, I needed someone to be like, I had the idea, but I needed someone that could actually make that idea happen. And lo and behold, I have to meet some schmuck from Philadelphia.
That asshole. Not to pat myself on the back, because I really don't want to do that, but it kind of is a a good enough of a metaphor to what we're talking about with Gary is the exact same thing. Obviously I was doing Breaking the Fourth Wall at the time, and Realm of the Mist had existed as a company that protected my old music. When I originally created Realm of the Mist Entertainment, it was to protect the intellectual properties of my old band Dissolution Purity. That's what I bought the copyright for. That's what I bought the trademark for, and everything else was to protect that stuff. And it fell dormant when I was no longer using the band. When you came to me and said, "Hey, I got this idea for a show," that's when I was like, well, if we're going to do that, maybe we need an umbrella company. I do have this, copyright that I've been sitting on for a couple of years. Do you guys want to use that? So that's really. But again, it also kind of fits in with the metaphor of Star Wars, because of you and people like Brian and Mario and Christina and stuff of that nature during the birth of Realm of the Mist. You guys made the franchise open.
Yeah.
The same way as George's vision created Star Wars. I was just a guy in the background trying to put it all together.
Yeah. And I would say, and this is a little bit off topic, but for anybody who's listening out there who will listen in the future, and you're thinking, man, I'd really like to do this podcasting thing, go for it. I mean, what do you have to lose? If you have a computer, if you have a phone, go for it, man. Find some friends that are willing to help you out if you can, and just do it. I mean, if that's basically what I did, is I happened to be on a chat site, and like I said, put up that I was wanting to do this, and this guy happened to comment on it, and next thing I know is here we are. Almost, what is it, 2 years later?
Yeah, almost 2 years later.
Almost 2 years later.
Well, that's the thing. Like one of the bigger podcasters that we know of out there, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Has blatantly stated, if you have an idea for a podcast, go do it. Doesn't matter how you record it. When I first started Breaking the Fourth Wall, I recorded it with a little digital recorder next to a cell phone. Okay, and that's how it started. The sound sounded like complete crap, but it kind of was the thing that started the ball rolling. That's what got me involved with, like, how can I improve? How can I improve? How can I improve? Then we got other shows involved and created Realm of the Mist, and that was really, how do I improve this? How do I improve this? Because I wanted to not only make my stuff look good, but I wanted everybody's stuff to look and sound the best it could. Yeah. So if you have that idea, if you have that dream, man, go do it. Whether it's with a company like Realm of the Mist or just on your own, it doesn't matter if you got 5 people or 50,000 people tuning into you every week. If you got something to say, go say it. That's
right, man. That's right. Preach it, brother.
But back to Star Wars.
The other.
This
is a Star Wars show, after all.
This is a Star Wars show.
It is.
The other things I thought about bringing up was Star Wars Resistance. You said you have not seen it yet, but
I have not seen it yet. But I hear you did, and I hear you were not impressed, to say the least.
No, the animation from the previews already had me kind of going, the whole cell animation, Ruby style, if you will, animation of it. It just didn't appeal to me, but at the same time, it's a Dave Filoni show. I had high hopes for it, and we're about 3 episodes in now, and it's a Disney show. It's not a Star Wars show. It's a Disney show. And I'm hoping that, it's just a slow starter.
Yeah.
Because I have faith in Dave Filoni, and I expect there's certain things I do expect from Star Wars, but thus far, the main character is just a goofball who screws up.
Yeah.
And not without giving too much away of the plot, he's supposed to be a spy for the Resistance, looking for a First Order operative that's hanging out on this platform thing of ace fighter pilots that like to race their fighters. And and he's supposed to be undercover, and he's undercover as a racer and a mechanic for this other guy who used to work for the rebellion. And so far, the guy's just a screw-up, a goofball. And there's been nothing that really even remotely feels Star Wars involved with it at all.
Mm.
And that's disappointing for me to say.
Now, and I've kind of mentioned this before and on other shows, but would you be okay if, like, you turned out to say, like, okay, this isn't for me, but this might be a gateway for a kid into Star Wars?
No, I'd be fine with it. The same as I wasn't hugely involved with, or invested, I should say, in Forces of Destiny. I knew I wasn't the target demographic.
Yeah.
And to say that, maybe this wasn't targeted towards me is fine. But the difference in the comparison is Forces of Destiny was still Star Wars.
Mm.
It still dealt with the Star Wars mythos and the Star Wars universe in some way, shape, or form. The only thing Star Wars we had out of this thus far is an appearance of BB-8 and an appearance of Poe. And BB-8's still in the show, but Poe is already gone. Now we got a bunch of nobody characters that aren't really talking, acting, or involving themselves in any way where it feels like it's a part of the Star Wars universe. And I think that's my problem with it. If it was just kidsy, but it still had a Star Wars feel to it, like, I hate to invoke some unholy things here, but like maybe the Lego Star Wars shows that used to be around, or like things like the old Ewok movies, then I'd be fine with it. It may not be my cup of tea, but I'd be fine with it. This just does not feel like Star Wars to me.
Well, I mean, that's fair enough, and I mean, that's the discussion we can get on another time. I don't know if we really have enough time to delve into that rabbit hole of it's not really this, because that's a whole other discussion we can have for several minutes. Is people who will say they'll see a show or they'll see a movie of any genre, and they'll say, well, that's not really Star Wars, or that's not really Battlestar Galactica, or that's not really Star Trek. And I mean, and I've said this before, and I'll just say this, that a lot of times when we say that, we say, I think what you're meaning is it doesn't feel like Star Wars.
Right.
I think technically, by all standards, it's still Resistance, even though it may not feel like Star Wars, it is still technically Star Wars. Because I've said this before, is the litmus test of is it Star Wars or is it not, is does it have Star Wars in the name and is it made by Lucasfilm? Then it's Star Wars. But that doesn't necessarily mean that something feels like Star Wars. I think that's the difference that people need to make clear, is that when we say that it's not Star Wars, we don't necessarily mean that it's not actually technically Star Wars. But like I said, that's a discussion, a can of worms that can be opened at another episode. So
no, absolutely. And the best way I can describe it is it seems like it's just like behind the scenes. If I were to give it any type of Star Wars flavor, it's almost like a behind the scenes of a pod race. And that's pretty much it's almost like watching Star Wars version of Speed Racer.
All right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So you see why it doesn't really feel Star Warsy to me. But I'm being fair enough. Maybe once he really gets into his quote-unquote spy mission and we start seeing involvement with like the First Order in some way, shape, or form, then maybe my opinion will change of it. But right now, as it presents itself with what it presented thus far, it just feels like any other cartoon you would see on the Disney Channel, as opposed to a cartoon that is taking place within the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to be fair, a lot of the other shows not necessarily had the same complaints that you're saying, but they had these same kind of slow start, especially with Rebels. I know people said, "Oh, it seems a little kiddie," but then as the show progressed, it definitely got a lot more mature and a lot darker. So, I mean,
but
and
it was allowed to on
with
Disney
Filoni,
XD.
yeah. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Then the last thing I had to bring to the table was Mark Hamill is out petitioning for Carrie Fisher to finally have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I just got to say, where do I sign?
Exactly.
Actually, my thing is, she doesn't.
Yeah, I know, it's surprising
already. Yeah.
Well, you got to think about it. George Lucas had one for years. Harrison Ford has had one for years, but it was only in the last 2 years that Mark finally got his.
I don't remember when he got his, to be honest. I think it was recently.
Is he pushing for the official Disney princess? I wasn't sure if that was legit or not. Agrodad Gaming is just saying that, so that's why I was asking.
I haven't heard anything about that, but
I've heard rumor, but I didn't know if it was legit or not. I do know it's legit. He's pushing for the Walk of Fame.
Yes, and I think, that's another one. She needs to be an official Disney princess.
Yeah, that's what he's saying too. He's saying that they need to. I agree, absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, she is our princess. Always has been, always will be.
Well, just remember with Disney now buying Fox. Remember, Dr. Frankenfurter is now officially a Disney princess too. So is Deadpool, if you think about it. So you might want to be careful on that. But no, Princess Leia. I
want to see that Disney on Ice with the Disney princesses. I want to see the Disney. I want to see the couples dance with Dr. Frankfurter and Deadpool on Disney on Ice.
Well, that's what I had, man. I don't know if there's anything else. We're 45 minutes in, so.
I really have nothing. It's going to be a short show. Again, we want to thank everyone who showed up to listen to us yammer on live about Star Wars and other crap. As always, you can find me on Facebook. Just look for Mark Tolley. On the Twitter, look for me at JohnMarkTolley1. Remember to like and subscribe. Check us out on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook.
Mixer.
Mixer. As I said at the beginning of the show, next year we will be on iTunes. So very, very excited about that. Chris, where can they see you? I almost go to you, Brian. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, you can find me right here on twitch.tv/Realm the Myths Entertained, where not only do we do these live podcasts, but I will also tonight be coming back on with a first look at Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Me and Jed Boop will be taking a look at that game, the Xbox One Edition game. Also, you can find me on YouTube with Realm of the Myths Entertainment. You can find me on Facebook or Twitter. Just look for Chris Stolley.
That's right. So until next time, whenever that may be,
next week,
I bid you farewell, and may the Force be with you.
Always.